which we'll discuss 333, 34 and 35. So I'll explain the verses and then we will discuss the topic. So I'll first tell the verse and then we can recite it. So Krishna is saying Sadrusham is visible for everyone. Maybe is it possible to turn off that one light on top? So I just want to make sure that when we are writing, can you check if inside this also what is written is visible? So desire management. That is the topic we are discussing. I think, yeah, that's fair enough. So when it's sufficiently dark, those who want to see can see, those who want to sleep can sleep. Okay. So Sadrusham cheshtate swasya. Cheshtate is endeavor. So accordingly, all people endeavor, Krishna says. Can try to repeat after me. Sadrusham cheshtate swasya. Prakriter. Prakriti is material nature. Jnanavan api. Krishna says, even the wise people, they endeavor, they act according to their nature. Prakriter jnanavan api. Then he says, Prakritim yanti bhutani. It is not just the wise, actually all people act according to their nature. Prakritim yanti bhutani. Nigraha. Nigraha is repression. Kim karishyati. What will you attain? It's a rhetorical question. What will you attain by repression of desire? That means you will not attain anything. Nigraha kim karishyati. So, if we look at these verses, broadly the topic we are discussing is desire management. And I will depict each of these verses in a diagrammatic way and then we will discuss the verses. But broadly, overarching theme we are discussing is Krishna is here telling, while managing desires, if we repress desires, so he says that is futile. That is not going to work. This is what he's talking about in 333. So, specifically what is he saying in this word 333? He says, Sadrushim cheshtate swasyaha prakriter jnanavanapi. So, there is the soul, around the soul is the subtle body, around the subtle body is the gross body or the what we call as the body. So, there is the soul. For shorthand, we can call the subtle body as the mind. And then there is the body. So Krishna says, in the mind, in the subtle body, there are different kinds of desire. These are impressions over there. And Krishna is saying that these impressions, they push us in particular directions. And he says, you can't repress them. Now, some people may have knowledge, some people may have less knowledge, but we can't repress our desires. And yet, if we go to the next verse itself, let's see what the next verse says. Indriyasya indriyasyarthe. That between the senses and the sense objects. Indriyasya indriyasyarthe. Raga and dvesha. That is attachment and aversion. Vyavasthitau, it's already situated there. Raga dveshau vyavasthitau. Tayor, in these, na vashamagachet. Don't be controlled by them. Don't come under their control. Tayor na vashamagachet. Tauya, though tau is those are. Asya Paripanthino. Paripanthino is they are thieves. Pantha is path. Paripanthino is they are thieves on the path. So Krishna is saying attachment and aversion are like thieves that will rob you on the path of life. So don't succumb to them. Indriyas, did we recite the way? Okay. Tauyasya Paripanthino. So in this verse, he's going to the other extreme. And he is saying, don't surrender to desire also. don't repress desire, but on the other side, don't surrender to desire. Okay, I desire to do this, and whatever I desire, I'll do it. If we do this, Krishna says, we will be robbed. We will be stripped of everything valuable in our life. Like people who spend their life chasing their desires, they end up wasting their lives. So now, specifically what he's saying, if we consider this is the path of our life, and we are going on this path, and if this is some worthwhile destination for us, something worthwhile we are pursuing. Say, consider a student is in college. So they want to study, and they want to build a good career for themselves. If we have a family, and we want to raise a good family, we have a job, and we want to build our career in a job. So now on that path, there is attachment, raga. It can happen that along the way, we may be attracted by something. And if we go in that direction, then we will waste our time. A kid may find, oh, in the college there are so many parties happening. Every night there's a party. And the kid starts going to parties in college every night. And what will happen is, his post-college life itself will become a continuous night. Isn't it? It will be a waste. It will be a very dark future. So now there is attachment, and then there is aversion. Now aversion means what? That on this path itself, some dark things will come up. So there will be something attractive coming up, and something comes on this path which makes us want to leave this path. Like if we are in college, some subjects we may just not like to study. Some teachers we may not like. If we are in a job, some colleagues we may not like. Or maybe the work environment we do not like. Maybe the travel distance we do not like. So there will be attachment and there will be aversion. So, can you just keep this down? It often falls in the middle of the class. Just distracting. But humility is the best policy. Okay, thank you. So, raga and dvesha, both of these Krishna says they are thieves. So, if, say right now you come for this class. Now, after this class, hopefully there is prasad. Is there? Okay, so there is prasad. Now, we like to be hungry, we will like to eat. But if we are too attached to the prasad, then what will happen is, we will not be able to, our consciousness will not be here for the class. Or say, maybe you are not very comfortable sitting on the floor. You can sit, but you are not so comfortable. Now, if there are chairs available, but if you are averse, then what will happen is the consciousness will be consumed by, oh, sitting on the floor is so difficult, sitting on the floor is so difficult. And then the consciousness will no longer be available to hear and understand what the class is talking about. So basically, attachment and aversion means, it's basically, I like this, I don't like this. Both of them can lead to desires. I like something, I want this, I don't like this, I don't want to be here. So Krishna is saying, don't be controlled by desires. So one side he says, don't repress desires. On the other side he says, don't be controlled by desires. Then let's see what the third verse says. So Shreyan Swadharmo Vigunaha. Krishna is saying Shreyan is, it is better in the long run. Swadharmo, based on your own duty, your own nature. Vigunaha, even if it is problematic. It is better to do your own nature, to do your own dharma according to nature, even if it is problematic. Shreyan Swadharmo Vigunaha. Paradharmat. Paradharmat is somebody else's dharma. Swa-anushtitat. It is better to be situated in your own dharma than somebody else's dharma. Paradharmat swanushtitat. Swadharme, while doing one's own duty, nidhanam shreyah. It is Krishna using the word shreya once again. The first line, the first word was shreyan. The third line, the last word is also shreya. So, in one's own duty, even if one meets with some problems, even going to the point of destruction, still it is better. Swadharme nidhanam shreya. Paradharmo, doing somebody else's activity. Bhayavaha, it is dangerous. It is fearful. Paradharmo bhayavaha. So the idea here is what Krishna is saying. It is far better to stick to your dharma, even if it seems faulty, than to go to somebody else's dharma. It is better to be destroyed while doing somebody else, our own dharma, than going somewhere else. Now, in this context, let's try to understand what this verse is saying. But before that, in terms of this diagram, this was 333, 334, and 335 is what? He says direct means like a director directs, direct desire according to dharma. Direct, dovetail, develop desire according to dharma. Krishna is not saying give up your desire, but let your desire be in harmony with dharma. Now, let's look at what dharma means over here. So, basically, don't repress desire, don't surrender to desire, but direct the desire. So, with this context, let's look at 335, what it is saying. There are many different ways to understand this particular verse, and this particular verse, almost in toto, is repeated in the 18th chapter. When Krishna talks about it in 1846, 47, 48, he repeats it. Slightly different second part, but the theme is the same. So, the idea is that for all of us, whatever situation we are in life, our mind will always be dissatisfied. Whatever happens, it is almost like a default function of the mind to be dissatisfied with whatever situation we are in. Sometimes, even if we come to a very wonderful situation, even if we get to paradise, if our mind is still the way it is right now, the mind will say, yeah, this is good, but a long list that will come after that. So, the mind will always find some reason to be dissatisfied. So, it could be, oh, this is wrong in my job, this is wrong in this relationship, this is wrong at this place. Now, is it all just mental? Not necessarily. Sometimes there can be things which are objectively wrong also. But the point is that whenever we feel this is wrong, that is wrong, that is wrong, it is quite likely that the mind is either creating that dissatisfaction or exaggerating that dissatisfaction. So this can happen in many areas in life. So the possibilities is the mind is creating the dissatisfaction, it is exaggerating the dissatisfaction. Now, of course, these are not only the possibilities. It is also possible that there is a real reason for dissatisfaction, the mind is perceiving it. So, all these possibilities are there. But the point is, when desires come in our life, let me start with some examples here. That I know a devotee couple in America, in North America. So when I stayed in there, the husband is a marketing head for a big company, but he's also from South India, so he learned some rituals and he performs weddings. And the wife is in family law. Now family law is a polite word for divorce. So they joke, they say we are the power couple. If you want to get married, come to the husband. If you want to get separated, go to the wife. So now, this lady, she was telling me some of the reasons why people get separated. Now, in much of the Western world, there is this whole concept of no-fault divorce. That is, okay, that person didn't do anything bad, but we just don't get along with each other. So it's nobody's fault, but we want to separate. Now, actually, the idea of a no-fault divorce itself is a big fault. Why? Because in many ways, they made it easier. See, sometimes when you have a phone, if you buy a phone and you buy it with some service, then it's like a locked phone. You have to be with that service for 1 year, 2 years before you can unlock the phone. So in many ways nowadays, it's easier to get out of a marriage than to get out of a phone contract. So now marriage is a serious commitment. Now, I'm not saying that there cannot be serious problems and they need to be addressed. But she was telling me that sometimes these people come and they give reasons why they want to separate. So there was this one Canadian lady, she came and she said that I want to separate from my husband. Okay, so she said, what is the reason? He says, we cannot agree on what the temperature for the AC at home should be. Now she was writing down, and I said, my pen couldn't move forward. I said, do you really want to write down that reason? You know, there are so many people in the world who don't even have homes. What to speak of having AC in their homes? What to speak of the temperature being adjustable in the AC? Now we could say maybe there are many other reasons and she's not talking about other reasons, there's a lot more to that. But the point is, if somebody thinks that that is a reason because if I want to end the marriage, it's quite a small thing which is being made into a big thing. So the point I'm making over here is that if whatever situation we are in, the mind will always find some reason to be dissatisfied. Now whether it is an actual reason or it is just an exaggeration of a situation, that's something which has to be very carefully analyzed. So what Krishna is saying when you use the word dharma over here, the word dharma has many different meanings. Dharma can mean duty. Dharma can mean religion. That's the sense in which nowadays it is used. Dharma can also mean boundary. That when Krishna later says, Dharma aviruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshapha. He says, when I am desire that does not go beyond the boundaries of dharma. So if you consider the difference between Devatas and Asuras, the Devatas also have desire, they also have Apsaras. And the Asuras, the demons also have desires. But the difference is that the Devatas respect the boundaries of Dharma. When Ravan came to know that Sita was married, that she was married was not a stop for his desire. That was just a temporary inconvenience for his desire. So for him, he had no respect for the boundaries of Dharma. So Krishna says that when desire, in general, desire can go wild. And when desire goes wild, it can destroy us. And the way we regulate desire is through dharma. Now I'll talk about various meanings of the word dharma. Dharma also means harmony. And I'll explain this meaning also. But the key for us is not so much to fight our desire. No, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Now that will lead to a lot of feeling I'm being repressed. But dharma is about that. Dharma also has one more meaning, which is nature. But let's look at one of these meanings. Now the word dharma as duty can sometimes be considered as burden. Dharma as religion can become sectarian. That is your dharma, Hindu dharma, Muslim dharma. Now dharma as a boundary. Let's try to understand what this means. At one level, for all of us, that we all get angry. No. And somebody says, I never get angry. What they mean is, there's a difference between anger and aggression. So when somebody says, I never get angry, that means they never become aggressive. Anger is when it is expressed outwards, it becomes aggression. Now aggression can be verbal, aggression can be physical. When we express anger outwards, that is aggression. Now sometimes anger is expressed inwards. We end up getting angry with ourselves. You are such a fool. You didn't do this right. You messed that up. And when that happens, that can very often lead to depression. Depression is where we are simply beating ourselves down. Sometimes we think that spiritual life means I have to give up desires. But actually, giving up desires is a very dangerous thing. Because one of the characteristics of depression is a person has no desire. No desire to do anything at all. No desire to even get out of the bed. No desire even to bathe. No desire to do anything at all. So we could say, in depression, there is too weak desire. In aggression, there is too strong desire. So what happens in anger, when it goes into aggression, it's like we have a stick. Now, and we want to beat someone. Now, probably if you see this drawing, you may think somebody should use a stick to beat me. Drawing is quite poor. But here what happens? Here it is like the stick we are using to beat ourselves. So basically, it is anger which needs to be within boundaries. So now all of us may get angry, but when we get angry, now what do you mean by boundaries for? So we are talking anger and dharma over here, for example. So there could be various levels of boundaries for anger. Somebody when they get angry, they may just give others the silent treatment. I won't talk with you only. Somebody get angry, they just talk in just disagreeable grunts. Somebody raises their voice. Somebody when they get angry, they don't just raise their voice, they raise their fists. Somebody maybe takes out a knife. No, in America where guns are legal, people can take out guns, even assault weapons. If the president of America or the president of Russia, they get angry, they can nuke an entire country. Isn't it? So now, anger can have different boundaries. So when we talk about civilized society, cultured society, that means what? That even if we get angry, our anger will be within some boundaries. So dharma in that sense means boundaries. So now, how many of you are sitting here? Can you look at the person sitting next to you? How many of you know the person sitting next to you? How many of you know the person sitting next to you? Okay, almost everyone. That's wonderful. Okay, thank you. So, is it possible that the person sitting next to you can suddenly turn upon you and slap you in the face? And now, is it possible? Well, anything is possible, you can say. But is it probable? It's unlikely. Don't get any ideas now. Now, we generally understand if a person is coming for a talk like this, they have that much level of impulse control, even if they are angry with us or they are angry with someone else. They're not going to turn suddenly and slap us. The idea is that in general, when we interact in society, we understand that people function within certain boundaries. And that is essential. So, the idea is dharma is boundaries. And sometimes in different places there may be different boundaries. So, generally speaking, in say most cultured or respectable societies, people when they get angry also, people don't use obscene language. People don't use obscenities or some indecent language or words like that. But in some cases, people may do that. So now, okay, if certain places they do that, okay, maybe this is okay, this is the way this culture is over here. Or is this person the odd person out over here? We shouldn't be behaving like this. So the idea is, every desire, it is regulated by the boundaries that are created. It could be by the culture of the place, maybe it's our workplace. Even say nowadays society is very, especially as the world is getting westernized, there is a lot of sexual licentiousness. But even in a very sexually licentious society, if one person is staring too much at the other person, if we stare, the other person glares, isn't it? So it's considered indecent. So the idea is that there has to be some regulation in how some other people behave. And that is just the way a decent person functions. So broadly speaking, when Krishna talks about dharma, dharma is a sense of boundary. This boundary is, how do they come about? They come about by a particular way. Let's look at one more meaning of dharma, and that will help us to understand how desire management works. See, one understanding of the word dharma is belonging. So, we belong to a larger whole. So, for example, if somebody drives on a road, then they are participating in the larger road transport system. Okay, so then to belong to the road transport system, what happens is they have to follow the rules of road transport. Now, that means there is the individual and there is the collective. So the individual and the collective. So the individual has to do something for the collective, and the collective does something for the individual. So we follow the rules of traffic, and what do the traffic rules do for us? They help us to get to our destination safely and smoothly. So whenever we belong to a larger whole, we give something and we get something. So now many of your Indians who are coming here to Australia. So now you come here, and now you are paying taxes, you are following the laws, and you are getting some benefits over here. So we belong to a larger whole and we get something from the larger whole. Now if you are coming for this class, now you are paying attention, you are giving something, and in this case I represent the collective. If I am expecting that you should pay attention, I should also be speaking something that is meaningful for you. So normally what happens is, when dharma is done in such a way, it leads to artha. Remember dharma, artha, kama, moksha? That when dharma is done, so for example, if you come for this talk, you follow your dharma and pay attention, and I do my dharma and speak something worthwhile, then some artha will come. You will feel that you got something, you learned something. In Hindi, in Bollywood language, paisa vasool. And they say, okay, I got something valuable out of it. So when dharma is done properly, it leads to artha. So now the point over here is that what is the next thing that comes after that? Kama. After this, we can fulfill our desires. So for example, a student goes to college, does the dharma, learns something valuable, and then, okay, what are your desires? You get married, you settle down, you fulfill your desires. So dharma, artha, kama. Now, in this progression, the desires are there, but one does not begin with the desires. We begin with dharma, we create artha, and then we go to kama. So let's look at this from one more context, and then I will conclude and we'll open for questions. So see, when I talk about belonging, we belong to simultaneously to many larger realities. So for example, right now, each one of us belongs to many larger wholes. So we may belong to a particular country, we may belong to a particular gender, we may belong to a particular ethnicity. Ethnicities, maybe South Indian, North Indian, Korean, like that. We may belong to a particular religion. We may belong to a particular age group. We may belong to a particular income level. So why are we discussing about this multiple belonging over here? Because the Gita begins with a problem of multiple belonging. How is that? That Arjuna, at the start of the Gita, he comes ready to fight. If you consider Arjuna, he comes, I am a Kshatriya, and I am going to fight. So he comes initially as a Kshatriya ready to fight. But then, when he comes in the middle of the two armies, he sees his opponents and they are all his relatives. And he is very forcefully reminded that he belongs to another group. That is, he belongs to a particular Kula. Kula is a dynasty. So he belongs to the Kuru Kula. And Kshatriya Dharma, see, each larger belonging brings some duty with it. Kshatriya Dharma brings the duty, fight. They are aggressors, you should fight. Now the Kuru Kula, belonging to the Kula brings a particular Dharma. The Kula Dharma is, don't fight. And this is where he feels torn. So if he identifies himself as Kshatriya, whoever are the opponents, he has to fight against them. But if he identifies himself as a descendant of the Kuru dynasty, this is my dynasty, these are my people. How can I fight against them? How can I kill them? And thus he feels torn. So what happens? We belong to multiple groups, multiple larger wholes, and we need to decide which larger whole is more important for me. Say for example, somebody is a parent and somebody is also a professional. Now, if we are having urgent project deadline and at that time we get a call from our child's school, your child has fallen down and is injured. Now what should we do at that time? Should we say, okay, I cannot come, I have urgent meeting, or forget everything, I'm going to take care of my child? Now, is necessarily one right and the other wrong? Well, it depends. Most people will say, no, my child comes first, family comes first, I have to go right now. But if somebody says, no, I have to stay for this meeting, so then it's not necessarily that they are wrong. The point is there are two dharmas, and two dharmas may pull a person in two different directions. So, quite often, now, why am I talking about this whole concept of dharma again? Are all of you sufficiently confused? Why am I saying sufficiently confused? If you are insufficiently confused, that means I have not communicated properly how complicated the situation is. But if you are overwhelmingly confused, then what happens is you may not find this interesting at all. This is too complicated. That's why my question is, are you sufficiently confused? So my point is that life is complicated. And when somebody feels, oh, my desires are not being fulfilled, why do I have to regulate my desire? Well, everybody has to regulate their desires. If a kid says, hey, all my friends are drinking and they're doing drugs, why can't I do drink and drugs? Okay, what they're basically saying is that I want to belong to that group of kids in college. Maybe they are the cool kids. Nowadays, in trying to be cool, people become fool. Isn't it many times? But the idea is that the child is not just being foolish or self-destructive. What is happening is the child is thinking, I want to belong to that group of cool kids, and to belong to that group of cool kids, I need to drink, I need to smoke. But then the child is belonging to a cultured family. The child is belonging to an ethnic group that is quite, say, prosperous, that is quite well educated, that contributes, less law abiding, that contributes to society in the future. There are so many belongings. So when karma goes beyond dharma, what it means is that one desire becomes so prominent that that desire drags us out of other groups that we are meant to belong to. So if somebody says that, okay, I want to grow in my career, and because of that I don't have any time for my family, then what is going to happen? Such people may become workaholics. Now, I used to use the word workaholic negatively, but actually it seems in professional circles, workaholic is a very positive word. Oh, you are such a workaholic. That means you are so dedicated to work. So one devotee showed me it seems apparently there's a book. It's called the prestigious addiction. So workaholism is like the prestigious addiction. Somebody is alcoholic, they won't be considered prestigious. But it's like, oh, you work so hard. Now, yeah, we all need to work hard. That is what life requires us to do. But if one just belongs to the family, belongs to the work, and what is happening is, say if you consider workaholic, means that person has a family and that person has a job. So now, in everything you give something, you get something. You give something, we get something. Now suppose what may happen is, in workaholism, that person does a lot of work and gets a lot back from the work also. But in the process, what happens? They do very little for the family, and slowly what happens is those bonds start getting frayed. So in belonging to one larger whole, sometimes we forget the other larger wholes, and that can lead to problems. So if we understand that I belong to multiple wholes, and life is about trade-offs. When Krishna says this world is dukkhalaya, it does not mean that we have to be in misery all the time. What it often means is that sometimes life, or frequently, life puts us in situations where there are no perfect solutions. There are only trade-offs. And we have to accept those trade-offs. Now, which is more important for whom at what time? That's something that has to be carefully considered. So, if somebody goes in the particular direction, then what happens as they move forward? They get so caught in this that then their family is separated from them, and all that is left for them is just their work. This is where they become a workaholic. And this is not a healthy thing. Our work cannot satisfy our heart's longing for relationships. Now this can happen in the other direction also. In the past 20, 30 years, past 30, 40 years ago, there's a lot of worry about overpopulation. Now the biggest worry is about depopulation. Now depopulation, there are many reasons for that. But generally for the world's population to continue, there has to be like a 2.1 birth rate. That means every family should have at least 2.1 children, that means a little more than 2 children. But in most of the Western world, it's much, much lesser. It's mostly the immigrants because of which something is going on. So now what happens if both the mother and the father, for them their career becomes the top priority? Then, okay, you pursue the career, you grow in the career, but then you can't have children, you can't take care of children. And then things have a problem over there. So now, this problem that we have different dharmas pulling us in different directions, that is a universal problem. When Narad Muni comes to meet Yudhishthir Maharaj, he makes a very interesting statement. So this is the principle with which we will conclude this discussion, that he says that you have broadly 3 belongings, 3 larger whole that you belong to. You have your family, you have your kingship, which you can call as job, and you have your spirituality. So this is another way to understand dharma, artha and kama. So he says, don't pursue pleasure at the cost of profit or religion. Don't pursue profit at the cost of pleasure and religion. And don't pursue religion at the cost of pleasure and profit. That means that in our lives, we will have desires in multiple directions. Now we want to have a happy family, we want to have a great career, we also want to be good devotees, and we want to advance spiritually. Now all these desires are very important desires. But what can happen is, if one desire starts overriding other desires and it dominates and destroys other desires, that can be a problem. Now, this is one way of looking at it, that for each one of us, when you talk about desires, that there is something which is aspirational. In any area of life, so for example, we may decide that, okay, as a devotee, every day I want to wake up by this time and I want to complete my chanting, I want to do XYZ things so that I can move on with the rest of my day. So that's good. It's good to have that kind of. But suppose we have a job that requires us to be late night, or if we have some service which takes us a lot of time, or if there's some crisis in the family. Now, we may not be able to stick to that. But then what we can do is, we can have a non-negotiable level, a bottom level. That this is where I would like to be, but this is the rock bottom which I will always do. This can be like a range we can have in our work, we can have in our bhakti, and we can have with respect to our family. That means that, say, if there is a festival like Janmashtami, then that is the time we may decide, I want to spend more time on my bhakti. And then the other things, okay, if I can't be at the aspirational level, I'll be at the basic non-negotiable level. Now sometimes there might be a need in the family, there's a wedding in the family, there's some big celebration, and that time we are required over there. So there we may decide, I'll increase my commitment over there. That's, I'll be at the aspirational level, and then maybe at my job I'll do the basic minimum required my job. I'll do basic minimum with respect to spirituality. So, but I cannot go below the basic minimum. So if you go below the basic minimum, our boss will say, okay, you're not doing anything over here. We may get fired over there. So we cannot have a 1-0 attitude. I have to be here or I'll out of it. We can have more like an analog attitude. It's more like a sliding scale. You know, sliding scale where things move in a scale from one degree to another degree. So in each area of life, we can decide, okay, what is it that I would like to do and what is it that I need to do. So aspiration means what I would like to do, and non-negotiable is what I need to do. So if we have this understanding, then we can be growing in multiple areas of our life. We won't be neglecting in any area, we won't be obsessing with any area. And that's how, when we talk about desire management, it is not desire repression, it is desire regulation based on the principle of Dharma. So when we understand that I have multiple dharmas and all these dharmas are important for me, so that according to that, we can regulate our desires. And when we regulate our desires in this way, okay, I'm not going beyond this in this direction, not because I'm unambitious, not because I'm lazy, but because this matters to me, but this also matters to me. So it is not that bhakti means that to become a devotee we give up to all other desires. It's not like that. We have other desires and we can pursue those desires. Arjuna had a desire to be a great archer. And Arjuna practiced diligently to be a great archer. But Arjuna, in pursuing archery, when he faced difficulties, despite being a great archer, he faced great adversities. They lost all their kingdom. They were attempted to be killed by the Kauravas. He did not think, okay, despite my great archery, I have no kingdom, I have nothing. What is the use of being a devotee? What is the use of practicing bhakti? Let me just give up my bhakti. He never did that. Yudhishthira Maharaj, he even, now here what I said is, in one sense these three are separate. Let's say our job, our office, our bhakti is separate. That's one way of looking at it. But the other way of looking at it is that in terms of activities, these are separate. But in terms of ultimate purpose, if this is the spiritual world, this is the material world, it is that, and here there is Krishna, it is through our bhakti and direct bhakti activities, we are moving towards Krishna. We come to a temple, we do a japa, we are moving towards Krishna. But it is also our job and our family, they are also meant to be our service to Krishna. So we go to Krishna by turning away from the world, and we also go to Krishna by turning to the world in a mood of service. So this is more, you could call it immersive bhakti. Immersive means we turn away from the world to immerse ourselves in Krishna. And this is more of inclusive bhakti. Inclusive bhakti is the world is included in the domain of our service to Krishna. So in this way, Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha. Krishna says, you remember me and you fight. So at one level, we need to understand that these are separate areas. Each of them needs separate attention. But in terms of our ultimate intention, all our activities are meant for Krishna. And in that way, there can be a harmonious integration for all of us. So I'll summarize what I discussed today. Our topic was desire management. And I talked about this broadly in 3 parts. I first talked about the Gita concepts, where we went over a review of 333, which says, don't repress, which basically says that Nigraha kim karishyati. So don't repress desires. 334 says, don't surrender to desire. Both of these are like extremes of a pendulum. And in between is 335. What does it say? Direct according to Dharma. So that was the one key point I discussed. Then we talked about Dharma, the many different meanings of Dharma. I talked about 2 main meanings. First was Dharma as a boundary. That everybody gets angry. We all may experience anger. But what happens? For all of us, anger stays within some boundaries. Now we may raise our voice, but we may not use foul words. Or we may, even if we use foul words, we will not raise our hands. So basically each of us has some boundaries. So we discussed how anger, when it goes outward, it becomes aggression. When people say, I don't get angry, all that they mean is they are not aggressive. When it goes inward, it becomes depression. So it's like we are beating ourselves up. And aggression is too much desire, and depression is too little desire. So prematurely giving up desire without having something healthier to do is not a healthy thing. And then we also discussed Dharma as harmony or harmonious belonging. That each one of us belongs to a larger whole, and we do something for the larger whole, and that larger whole does something for us. And that is how we can have harmony or harmonious belonging. So with this understanding, what happens? Dharma leads to artha. And with that artha, we can fulfill our kama. So many people, they just jump to desire without actually belonging harmoniously or producing something of value. And that's when the desire becomes disruptive or destructive. And lastly, we talked about the balance of dharma. How balance is, each one of us has multiple belongings. We discussed how Arjuna's dilemma was that Kshatriya dharma pulled him in one direction and Kula dharma pulled him in another direction. So he didn't know what to do. Kshatriya dharma said fight, Kula dharma said don't fight. So we all may experience this, that our career requires us to spend more time in office, our family requires that we spend more time at home. What do we do at that time? So for us, we understand that we all, for example, Yudhishthira Maharaj is told by Narad Muni, there are primarily three broad belongings we have. One is, you could say, our family, our job, and our bhakti, our spirituality. And the way we ensure that we don't get fixated or obsessed with anything is, we have the approach of a range. That is, in each area, we can find out what is aspirational for us, what we would like to do, and what is non-negotiable for us. So, this is a basic minimum that I will always do. And we may have to shift which area I want to be at the aspirational and when, and which I want to be at the non-negotiable when. And in that way, we won't be suppressing desire, but according to the multiple dharmas we have, we direct our desire accordingly. In this way, each one of us can learn to better manage our desires. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? I gave this class once in Mumbai. After this class, one devotee told me, after hearing this class, I have learned to manage my desire to learn about desire management. Was it understandable or was it complicated? Sufficiently complicated. Yes, Mataji, please.
So you said between anger, aggression, and depression. Aggression would be too much desire, and depression would be too little desire. How do we make understand people in outside the world to be in between?
How do we?
People in outside world, in material world, to understand, to be in between, to have how we do that.
Okay, how can we help them to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. See, fundamentally, desire itself is not a bad thing. Desire is something which we have because Krishna has desire and we are parts of Krishna. So, ultimately, I didn't get time to discuss this point that, see, we belong to various larger units. We belong to a family, we belong to a community, we may belong to a country, we belong to humanity. Ultimately, we all belong to Krishna. So, all other larger wholes are present within Krishna. For example, when we are newborn, our mother feeds us with her own breast milk. It's one of the most intimate acts of love. That is certainly the mother's love, but is it only her love? It's not that the mother does anything special to produce milk in her breasts when a baby is born. The same God who sends a child through her womb into the world also sends milk in her breasts. So Krishna is not just the largest whole. Krishna also sustains all other wholes. So if a country is prosperous, if that country is taking care of us, all these wholes are sustained by Krishna. So that is, the country's prosperity is coming from the natural resources. The country didn't really produce those natural resources. Country tapped those resources. So these are coming from Krishna. So now, of course, with new people, we may not be able to convey this point ultimately. But the point I was making is, desire is not a bad thing. It is because Krishna has desire, so we have desires. But for us, we need to be able to direct those desires in a harmonious way. So when somebody is feeling depressed, essentially what is happening, now depression can be sometimes a clinical phenomena and people may require some specialized treatment at times. But generally speaking, when a person is trying to belong to some whole, and we all have different wholes which we want to belong to, and despite trying repeatedly, they fail to belong to whole. Somebody tries to get a job and they just try and try and try, they just don't get a job. Somebody tries to have a relationship and somehow they try and try, nothing seems to work out. Mm. Somebody tries to maybe, whatever it is, somebody tries to pass an exam and just can't pass. So generally, when depression is occurring, the idea is that we are trying to do something, and when that doesn't work, we just start thinking, maybe I'll never be able to do it. I will never succeed. I'm just a loser. So why even try? So at that time, it's very important. So see, loss is something which everyone will experience in life. But if we are having, in Sattva Guna, broadly speaking, we will say, okay, I have lost. And everybody loses at times. If we are in Rajoguna, we may say, I am lost. Now, this is far more damaging. It's not just a loss of opportunity, it's a loss of direction. But if you get into Tamoguna, we'll start thinking, I am a loser. And this is very damaging. Now, sometimes that say, just before I came to India, I was giving a talk in IIT Mumbai, and there I was talking with some faculty. IIT is one of the top colleges in India. So there, just a couple of days before, a student had committed suicide over there. It's horrible when students do that. They are top students from India. Now, one of the reasons is that now not getting good marks, that student had done poorly in an exam, and that's why he had done that. Now, not doing well in an exam is not good. But it's not such a terrible thing that you have to end your life because of that. So what has happened is that belonging to that group of being a topper, being among the top students or being among the successful students, that became so important. Maybe it could be parental expectation, maybe it could be social expectation, maybe it's self-imposed expectation, whatever it is. That you try, if I cannot do well in an exam, then I am a loser. And if I am a loser, what is the point of living as a loser? Then if somebody is in a relationship with somebody they think is a loser, they'll want to break up with that person. Why should I stay with a loser? But if we think we are losers, then what are we going to do? Are we going to break up with ourselves? That's what suicide actually is. So suicide of course results because of extreme depression. So my point is, when somebody is feeling depressed, we have to help them find some larger whole that they can healthily belong to. So somewhere, okay, in this, maybe I'm good at music, maybe I'm good at computer coding, maybe I'm good at writing. So once you find even one area where they can belong to in a way that gives them a sense of self-worth, that is what is a very practical and tangible way to deal with their depression. And this can help, spirituality can help us in this direction, because what spirituality tells us is that we always belong to Krishna. Krishna will never abandon us. And Krishna says, Mamaivamsho jiva loke jiva bhutaha sanatanaha. Krishna says that we are parts of Krishna. And we are parts of Krishna always. It is never that even if we do something sinful, that does not mean stop being parts of Krishna. Now this is a philosophical truth. What does it practically mean for us? If we are parts of Krishna, that means we have parts in Krishna's plan. If I am a part of Krishna, that means I have a part in Krishna's plan. How does this apply? How does it apply? Say if somebody is a part of the Indian national cricket team, or somebody is a part of the Australian cricket team. What does it mean? If they are selected in that team, that means they have a part in that team. Now of course, from some teams people may be dropped. Now, India, nobody is dropped from the team, people are rested from their team. They're rested, they're dropped actually. But anyway, my point is, but from Krishna's team, we will never be dropped. No matter how many bad things we do, how many things we forget, our heart may be close to Krishna, but still our heart is close to Krishna. It may be close to Krishna, but still it is close to Krishna. Krishna will never abandon us. Krishna will never forsake us. So spirituality is presented in a very affirmative way that can actually be very faith boosting, that can be very energy boosting, that can be a very depression countering. Unfortunately, spirituality can also be presented in a very unhealthy way. That, unless you do this, unless you wake up in the morning, unless you chant this many rounds, unless you fast on Ekadashi, you don't do this, Krishna will be angry with you. Therefore, do these things. When we start presenting spirituality in that way, then what happens is, we start thinking that I have to earn Krishna's love. And then, our spirituality can also become a cause of depression for us. Oh, I'm not able to meet this standard, I'm not able to meet that standard. Certainly, Krishna, we want to improve in our bhakti. But whatever level we are at, Krishna loves us and Krishna cares for us. So understanding that is very helpful for countering depression. So if we consider Krishna is in the center over here. See, around Krishna, there are many circles of love. In the innermost circle, maybe Radharani and the gopis. Then there might be the Vrajavasi, then might be Vaikuntavasis. Then can be the pure devotees, then can be sadhakas. But ultimately, Krishna says, Suhrudam Sarva Bhutanam. So we are all in one of these circles. Now the purpose is that we all would like to move towards an inner circle. But wherever we are, however we are always loved by Krishna. If we understand this, this can be a powerful antidepressant insight. Okay? Thank you. Yes, please.
Guruji, for directing this desires, do they need to be purified?
So, trying to stick to Dharma itself is a means of purification. So, whatever Dharma we try to do, say suppose somebody gets married. What does that mean? That means the karma which they have, they are regulating it. And if somebody regulates karma according to the principles of Dharma as in marriage, over a period of time, that karma will get purified. Now of course there are some dharmas which will purify gradually, some dharmas which will purify rapidly. So in general, Dharma acts as a regulator of desire, but Dharma also acts as a purifier of desire. If we are practicing bhakti, because it connects us with Krishna and it gives us experience of Krishna, bhakti pareshanubhava viraktiranyatra. Once we experience Krishna, that experience is so fulfilling. We feel, what do I need anything else for? I just want to do this. And then that way desires will get purified also. But our topic today was not desire purification. Our topic was desire management. I mean, these are the kind of desires I have right now. See, purification is very important, but purification takes time. So till purification happens, how am I going to manage my desires right now? That's why, okay, these are the desires I have right now, and I will keep these desires. I'm not going to give up any desires right now because I can't. But I'll keep those desires within the boundaries of Dharma. Okay? Yes, you wanted to say?
No.
Okay. Any last question before we stop?
Sorry, Krishna Prabhu. So, I think in terms of need to do and
want to do or like to do.
So, these are the framework for managing desires. So then also we can kind of we might go in tangents like, okay, I'm loved by Krishna. So pretty much anything that I do or any particular belonging that I am part of, I can always go a little that way or a little that way because I'm loved by Krishna. So I'm just trying to understand where at that point in time that we try to bring the balance back.
Okay, good question. So we may say I'm loved by Krishna and we can apply that for anything. And whatever we do, we are loved by Krishna. Well, that is true. See, Krishna's love for us is unconditional. But our experience of his love is conditional. Let me explain what this means is. The sun always gives light. But if my eyes are closed, I won't be able to see the sun. So Krishna always loves us. But if our heart is attached to other things, then we won't feel Krishna's love. The parents may love a child, but if the child is very infatuated with a particular toy, and the parents say, I want this toy. And the parents say, no, we give you all these things. You have enough toys, you don't need this. No, I want this toy. And what may happen is that the parents say no to that toy. The child says, you don't love me only. So what happens? Our desires can shrink, can constrict, can limit our capacity to pursue Krishna's love. And then if we get caught in other desires, if those desires are not fulfilled, we think, where is Krishna? Where does Krishna care for me? What is Krishna's love for me? And that way we'll get entrapped. So that's why there are two distinct things. See, Krishna's love, it is unconditional, but on one side you can say it's unconditional. But on the other side, see, love itself has no meaning unless it's conditional. Sometimes people use the word free love. This was the big catchphrase when Prabhupada had gone to America, 1962 around about, or in Western culture started something called sexual revolution. People said, oh, marriage and all these traditional religious boundaries, they're all restricting love. So we want free love. But actually love itself is a bond. Love is a voluntary acceptance of limitation. So love, you can say in that sense, can never be unconditional. Or let's put it more precisely, love may be unconditional, but a loving relationship has to be reciprocal. And reciprocity is a condition. Like say, if we look at the progression from 7.16 to 7.19. Krishna says in 7.16 and 17 that anybody who comes to me for any reason, Krishna says, Sukritina, they are good people. Krishna appreciates them. He says, it's like, but then 7.9 Krishna says, those who dedicate themselves to me, Bahunam Janmanam Ante, Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate, Vasudeva Sarvamiti. They are Samahatma Sudurlava. They are rare people. So let's understand this with an example. Say, if a boy proposes to a girl, please marry me. And the girl asks, okay, why do you want to marry me? And the boy replies, because no other girl in town is ready to marry me. Now, that is not the most romantic of proposal, isn't it? Now, if the girl accepts that proposal, that shows the girl's love for the boy, not the boy's love for the girl. Isn't it? Now, if the boy in future has other options and still stays with the girl, then that will show his love for the girl. So like that, many times when we go to God, we often pray, Krishna, I have tried everything else, nothing works. You are my last hope now. Please help me. What are we telling Krishna? Krishna, basically you are my last option. I tried everything else, after that I came to you. But Krishna is so kind that he accepts us at that time also. But when Krishna accepts us at that time, when we have run out of all options and come to him, that shows his love for us. Our love for him will be shown when we have other options and still we stick to Krishna. That means our health has gone down and no medicine is working. We have tried many doctors. Krishna, please help me. And yes, we come to Krishna, that's good. But then our health is good, our finances are good, our family is good. And do we say, Krishna, thank you, bye-bye? Or do we stay with Krishna at that time? So in that sense, if you see in between these two is, Krishna's love is conditionally unconditional. Conditionally unconditional means what? From his side, it is unconditional. His side, he will always love us. But our experience of his love will be conditional. And a simple example to illustrate this is, suppose a mother has had some time to give some bitter medicine to a child. The child is saying, no, 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 I don't want to take it. Mother has to hold the mouth and pour the medicine into the child's mouth. Now, the mother is going to give sweet mango juice now. But the child, based on past experience, mother says, take this mango juice. No, I'm not going to take it. No, this is tasty. No, I'm not going to take it. Then the mother, what she does is, she has to hold the baby's mouth, child's mouth, drink it. Now if the child is just closing his mouth tightly and not letting even a drop going, then the child will not experience it. But if the child at least opens the mouth, what happens? Like that, is drinking. So it will be like, oh, it's so delicious. So like that, our heart is often very restless. It doesn't fix on Krishna. But when we are chanting, when we are hearing, at least we are trying to open our heart to Krishna. Then Bhajahure Mana Shri Nandanandana Abhaya Charana Ravindare. When our mind fixes a little bit on Krishna, we find it's so peaceful, it's so joyful, it's so sublime. Hey, I want this more. And that's how we become absorbed. So that's why it's important that we don't take Krishna, the unconditional nature of Krishna's love, as a license to stay away from him or to go away from him. Krishna accepts us no matter what we do. Or let's put it another way. Krishna accepts everyone but not everything. Suhrudam sarva bhutanam. Krishna accepts everyone. He's a well-wisher of everyone. But that does not mean he accepts everything. Krishna clearly says, these actions will bring me towards you, these actions will take you away from me. So that's why that is important to understand. Okay? So thank you very much. Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki, Srimad Bhagavad-Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Gaur Premanande. So I've got a couple of books here.